One approach that's a completely natural approach is something called allergen immunotherapy. And that's when we give you small amounts of what you're allergic to. So actually like the protein in the tree that you're allergic to in very small amounts. And then we build up a tolerance to that over time so that you're no longer allergic to it. So that I would say is like the most effective and natural approach is allergen immunotherapy. And that comes in the form of either tablets or drops under the tongue that you use every day or shots that you do in the allergist office once a week, building up to a maintenance dose where you have to go in once a month. So it's a commitment. It can be like a 2 to 4 year commitment, but it can cure you of your allergies. 80% of people experience significant improvement in their symptoms or even a cure of their allergies, which is huge because it's like, okay, I've just trained my body to tolerate this and no longer be allergic.
This week, I interviewed Dr. Tania Elliott. Dr. Elliott is a health influencer and dual board certified in internal medicine and allergy immunology. We discussed ways to overcome seasonal allergies, along with Dr. Tania's morning routine, keys to optimizing sleep, the importance of strength training, removing toxic items in your kitchen, and her one tip to get your body back to what it once was. Really enjoyed my interview with Dr. Tania. I know you will too. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy the show. All right, welcome to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. My name's Brian Gryn, and I have Dr. Tania Elliott on. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on from Connecticut, right? Originally from there?
No, I'm from Long Island, but I kind of split my time, mostly New York City.
Got it. Okay. And you've been you're board certified allergist, correct? Maybe tell the audience a little bit more about, I know you're a clinical instructor as well, about sort of your background and what they, just a little, backstory.
Yeah. So I'm dual board certified in allergy and clinical immunology, which is allergic diseases as well as the immune system, as well as internal medicine, which is like primary care. And a lot of the topics that I focus on relate to women's health, hormone health, and longevity. I'm a clinical instructor at NYU Langone Health. So originally I started off on private practice on Park Avenue, and then very quickly kind of got more into like healthcare innovation and actually had more of a healthcare executive roles at numerous companies, so like medical director, chief medical officer type roles. I've been in the startup space. I was the medical director of one of the very first telehealth companies before anyone even knew what telehealth was. This was back in 2013 with a company called Doctor on Demand that was started by Dr. Phil McGraw, like of the Dr. Phil show, and his son. Then I've worked on the insurance side for Aetna, and it was acquired by CVS Pharmacy. And I helped to design healthy living programs, chronic disease management programs, all focused on the use of health education and technology to keep people healthy at home and keep them out of the doctor's office. Spent a lot of time focusing on preventive health and supporting employers who make most of our healthcare decisions on a healthy living strategy for employees. So I was a chief medical officer of a company that focused really on how you think, how you move, and how you eat, talking about mental health strategies, physical activity and movement, as well as nutrition, and like how to medicalize that to some extent, how to make the programs that we created really outcomes driven. And then at the height of the pandemic, I was recruited over to Ascension, which is a really, really, really large health system. They employed 5% of the doctors in this country, and was brought on to oversee all their virtual care programs, which essentially meant all of the care, outpatient care that was happening during the pandemic. So 3.5 million patients later, and a whole bunch of really cool programs that involved remote patient monitoring and devices and things in the home. I've sort of been like the digital health, telehealth guru and evangelist. And now this next chapter in my career has really been focused on health education and going direct to people with healthy tips, useful information, ways to simplify healthcare, being a trusted source for accurate health information. Because I really felt like most of my career prior to this has been focusing on trying to help innovate from within our broken healthcare system, right? Employer, payer, startup, provider, right? And now it's like, okay, now let me focus my attention on people to empower them directly. So that's my story.
Thanks for sharing. And you're doing that mainly through Instagram, right? Your social media pages as well. I noticed, I love your Instagram page. Definitely check it out. Dr. Tania Elliott is the handle. And a lot of information. Where do you sort of come up with? I mean, there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot of sources out there where people should trust they're getting their information, but where do you sort of come up with things to talk about and different hacks and things like that?
Yeah, I think the content pillars are really important. So
Yeah.
first is kind of just staying true to my areas of expertise. So we sort of have like the women's health, men's health, hormone health, I would say, and like healthy aging. And then obviously allergy and immunology as an allergist, that's another pillar. And then we sort of have our like viral things and trends. And that's sometimes like getting some inspiration for what is very popular in the news right now. And I should say, like, another aspect of my background has been in the broadcast and media space, doing television and pitching to news stations, working really closely with PR agencies as like spokesperson for for lots of national organizations and companies. So like what's the hot topic and the pitch is something that I've been doing for quite some time, and I've brought that skill set to social media. And then what's important for me is also tying things to clinical studies. So you'll see like I'll flash up evidence-based studies and trials. So it's not just like me saying something like, oh, believe me. It's like, don't believe me, look at the studies. So that's really important, is that everything is sort of research backed and evidence-based. And then also like I like set and setting. So you'll see like I'm in different locations for lots of my shoots, and I want it to be aesthetic and visually pleasing, because I think Instagram is a platform, like you're scrolling and you want something that's like nice to look at too. So I think some of it is aspirational for people, but also at the same time relatable and trustworthy.
And one of the things you talk about are like, we're getting to allergy season, so we might as well talk a little bit about that. I know my wife tends to get it just like for this part of the year once the weather starts to change. What are three things people should know? I know you talked a little bit about that on social media, as we come to allergy season here.
Sure. So one is it an allergy or something else? So something's important to note is that some people could just be sensitive to the temperature change, whether it's from warm to cold or vice versa, or going indoors to outdoors. And that could actually trigger an allergic type response in the nasal passages. So paying attention to like the timing of your symptoms is important. Or they could actually be allergic to something that occurs at a certain time of year. And the way to tell the difference is really like the timing of the symptoms. So if you say your wife experiences allergy symptoms from like mid-March till the end of May, then the likelihood is she's allergic to tree pollen. So important to distinguish also this time of year the difference between allergies and a cold. So allergies don't cause a fever, they don't cause swollen lymph nodes, and they last longer than like a week. So like it'll be like 10 weeks where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so congested, right? So that's an important distinction, because sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. But if you have allergies that are uncontrolled, guess what? You're more likely to develop a cold or catch a virus or have a bacterial infection, because you've got all this mucus that's being produced by your allergy cells, and bacteria and viruses find that very warm and cozy. So that's another important thing. And then the third kind of bucket of information I think is important is that the first line of treatment for your allergies is not popping a pill or using a nose spray. It's identifying and avoiding your triggers. And so for tree pollen allergy in particular, it is keeping the windows closed and the air conditioning on when you're in your car, making sure when you're in your home, you clean out your vents, especially if you're sort of turning on the air conditioning for the first time, because all of the stuff has been sort of collecting in your vents. It's as soon as you come inside, you want to like strip down and take a quick shower, especially if like you use hairspray in your hair, because pollen will get stuck to the hairspray. It'll also get stuck to your eyelashes. So you actually want to take like a little cotton swab and baby shampoo and scrub in between your eyelashes to get rid of pollen that may have gotten stuck there. Taking off your shoes when you first come into the house, and wiping down pets. I would say doing those things can significantly mitigate some of those allergy symptoms, so you're not just going and grabbing a bunch of allergy pills.
Are there any like natural remedy or natural pills that maybe could help as opposed to just going to allergy medicine? Like,
yeah. Well, one approach that's a completely natural approach is something called allergen immunotherapy. And that's when we give you small amounts of what you're allergic to. So actually like the protein in the tree that you're allergic to in very small amounts. And then we build up a tolerance to that over time so that you're no longer allergic to it. So that I would say is like the most effective and natural approach is allergen immunotherapy. And that comes in the form of either tablets or drops under the tongue that you use every day, or shots that you do in the allergist office once a week, building up to a maintenance dose where you have to go in once a month. So it's a commitment. It can be like a 2 to 4 year commitment, but it can cure you of your allergies. 80% of people experience significant improvement in their symptoms or even a cure of their allergies, which is huge because it's like, okay, I've just trained my body to tolerate this and no longer be allergic. Some people talk about raw honey, and there's some anecdotal benefit to it. And let me explain how it works. So, bees go and they pollinate different plants. So technically there's pollen inside honey. Also, honey has some antibacterial properties and it's very soothing to the throat. Some people say, oh, it's completely cured me of their allergies. I'm a little bit skeptical of that because most bees are not pollinating trees, they're pollinating very bright flowers. And the things that they're pollinating are typically not the things that most people are allergic to. So you're mostly allergic to like birch tree or like a maple tree and things like that. That's not what the bees are going around and pollinating. However, nothing wrong with honey, antibacterial, soothing to the throat. And if some people say, hey, it helps me feel better, great. But I just want to put out there that some people are like, oh, raw honey does everything, it cures everything. And like scientifically, most likely not. It's not acting the way that immunotherapy does, which is we identify what you're allergic to. We put that exact protein of what you're allergic to into your formulation, and then we increase that and titrate up that dose over time.
Yeah, good to know. I am a fan of raw honey, I will say, like a good quality raw honey. I put that with yogurt from time to time. Love it.
It's
Yeah.
delicious and it's great. It's really good for you. Manuka honey, and it definitely has antibacterial properties. So like that, I absolutely believe that like maybe you're a little bit less likely to pick up a superimposed infection on top of your allergies because at least you have that in your system. I'm all for natural remedies, and I'm not very much into like, oh, let's just pop a bunch of pills to address symptoms without even going after the root cause. Like if you tell me there are a couple of things I can avoid doing or keep out of my home, I'd much rather do that and not get triggered than get triggered and then have to take a bunch of medicines.
Yeah. Are there any like people use like Allegra and things like that? Like, are there any ones that you recommend if they need to take something like that?
Yeah. So Allegra is the least drowsy formulation, but it takes the longest to kick in. Then there's Zyrtec and Xyzal, which kick in about as quickly as Benadryl. But I do not recommend Benadryl. You've seen probably at my post, it's like I never take that. And that's because it's one of the older generation antihistamines. It crosses into the blood-brain barrier and it's been associated with dementia. People also overuse it sort of as like, oh, it helps me sleep and as a sleep aid. Number one, it can have a paradoxical effect where you get restless leg syndrome when you're up all night. I've seen people also like give it to kids on an airplane and then the kid's up running around and it has a paradoxical effect. It's just overall, like, why would you want something that can also like impact your brain? It could affect your memory. It can affect, like you shouldn't be driving when you're taking it. So like for me, there are alternatives to Benadryl that are just as effective. So Benadryl is like off the table. It can also cause arrhythmias. So Xyzal and Zyrtec can kick in similar like time fashion. But in about 10% of people, you can get a little bit drowsy. That wears off with continued use. So those are effective. There's Claritin, which is also kind of an older antihistamine and just it's not as potent as I would say Xyzal, Zyrtec, or Allegra.
Got it. Okay. Anything else we should touch on with allergies
Yes, a few more things. So
Okay,
one is
yeah.
like, so when should I take an antihistamine? What about nose sprays? Like, what should my allergy regimen be? It's like the over-the-counter aisle, I've always said, is like the most confusing place. Like you walk down there, it's like a $12 billion industry. You're like, what the heck should I take? And half the time it's like the same medication. It just has like a different label, right? With like a different use. It's like Allegra sneeze, Allegra hives. Like it's just Allegra, stop. So anyway, aside from that, I typically recommend antihistamines for people who don't have that severe allergies, who are like, yeah, sometimes like in the springtime, if I'm like out in the park and I'm running with my dog and I'm out for a long period of time, I'll get allergies. So I'll say, okay, fine. So like keep a Zyrtec with you or an Allegra with you and just kind of take it as needed. Or if you know, anytime you go to this particular park or go on this particular run, you're going to have allergy symptoms, just take it about an hour before. Because it's always better to sort of have something in your system to prevent an allergic reaction from occurring. So that's it for the antihistamines. I like them sort of as needed. Another good example is, oh gosh, I'm going to my aunt's house and she has a cat, right? So let me just pop an antihistamine 1 hour beforehand so that I'm not symptomatic when I'm around the pet, as opposed to having symptoms and then taking the medicine because it doesn't work as effectively. Antihistamines like Allegra and these pills I'm talking about block the release of histamine from your allergy cells. And histamine is responsible for itching, swelling, redness, and congestion. So what it does is it prevents that from coming out. Once the histamine's already released and you're having the reaction, it only stops new histamine from coming out, but not the stuff that's already there. So that's how I recommend antihistamines. For nose sprays, there's like the Afrins of the world, which I don't recommend for more than 3 days because you can get addicted to it. And then there are like Flonase, Nasacort, Nasonex. Those are nasal steroid sprays. A lot of times patients will come to me and say, nasal steroid sprays don't work. And I say, how are you using them? And they say, when I have symptoms. And I said, and that's why they're not working. You need to use those medicines consistently for 5 to 7 days before you'll start to see a benefit. So I recommend to patients who suffer like your wife for like 12 weeks. I'm not giving her medical advice. I'm just saying, for example, so, start the nasal spray now. So by the time you get to mid-March, when the trees start to bloom, it's already in your system, and stay on it consistently through allergy season so that you're not symptomatic. And it helps with nasal congestion, post-nasal drip, and even the eye allergy symptoms as well. And it also can help to prevent the sinuses from getting blocked up. It essentially relieves the inflammation and calms down inflammation in your nasal passages. And it works locally, so you don't have to worry about systemic absorption, meaning absorption into your body. The biggest side effect is like you'll get a little bit of dryness, crusting, or bleeding, and because it can dry you out. So in that case, you would stop taking it for a little while and just use some nasal saline rinses. And then just last 2 things on natural remedies. Neti pots and nasal saline rinses are really good. I recommend like twice a day to wash out your nasal passages, but make sure you use previously boiled or distilled water. You never want to put tap or bottled water in your nose. But just like you're washing your hands and washing stuff off your hands, you're breathing in all of these things that you're allergic to. Just wash out your nasal passages twice a day. If you don't like how that feels, then just use a nasal saline spray throughout the course of the day. Flush out, clean out your nasal passages, and that can be very effective. Otherwise, the allergens just sit there in your nose. And then the other thing I really love is you can take a pot of hot water, add some fresh ginger, and then breathe in the fresh ginger, right? Don't put your face too close to the hot water, but breathe that in. You could sometimes put a towel over your head and do it, or you could do like a steam in the shower. And ginger is a natural anti-inflammatory, so it calms down the nasal passages, the sinuses, and the lungs.
And probably, like you said, you want to sort of get ahead of it. So like now we're in March, probably start doing that soon, right?
Right. Because otherwise, like once it starts, you're like miserable and it's a lot harder to get everything under control.
Right.
So if you know allergies are predictable, like if you know you're going into your allergy season, start on the nasal spray for now.
Okay.
Have some antihistamines on hand. Have some antihistamine eye drops on hand. You don't need to use those every day, just the nasal spray. So like put it next to your toothbrush so you have it. And then, when you are starting to feel a little congested, start with the nasal rinses and doing the fresh ginger and all that stuff.
Okay. Start with the nasal spray. Is there one that you recommend, or is there all like the same?
There's Flonase, there's Nasacort. Okay. Those are available over the counter. The other thing that you could do is when your symptoms are really bad, you could combine the Afrin and the Flonase together. So Afrin alone is not good because it constricts your blood vessels. And it's really good at constricting your blood vessels, but then when you stop using it, your blood vessels go whoosh, and they dilate again and you get super congested again. So you get addicted to it. And then it's really, really hard to get off it. But if you combine a spray of Afrin with a spray of Flonase or Nasacort or Nasonex, it doesn't have that addictive effect. And there are some prescriptions available. There are some like online companies that offer and create like compounded custom nasal formulations for you. So it's like a 2-in-1 nasal spray. Sometimes even 3-in-1 nasal spray because they'll throw in an antihistamine nasal spray component to it. So I am a fan of these combination nasal sprays that attack the allergies from multiple angles. So that is another option.
A lot to choose from. So let's move on to I don't know. I know you talk a lot about in your social media posts, like some type of routines, and like what type of routines do you like to implement Like we always talk about morning and evening, like to set you up for the day and have a, a great day.
Yeah. So I've started to do for my morning routine, I wake up and I refuse to look at my phone for like the first hour and a half. I just don't. I first started, it was like next to my bedside table and I took it out of my bedroom. And then that like wasn't far enough away because I would get up to like go to the bathroom and then I wander into the hallway and find it. So then I like hid it upstairs in a drawer.
Right.
I literally will hide my phone and then I just like it's you realize how addicted you are to your phone, right? But
Sure.
I would like hide it in a drawer and like not look for it at least for the first hour. And studies have
Love that.
shown that that really helps you to have a better day because you're not like it allows your brain to be like offline for a little bit and not
Yeah.
just focus on work. And then it allows you to be a little bit more present with, hey, what dreams did I have last night? And was there anything like important that I maybe want to write down and journal? I do keep a journal by the side of my bed. I do write down the dreams I have. I think that's important. What things do I want to accomplish today? How am I feeling today? What am I feeling in my body? Like the minute you go and you reach for your phone, you're out of your body, right? And you're like literally like on your device and in your alternate universe of like online and work and everything. So if you at least just take that hour, it allows you to be a little bit more present and check in with yourself and your body. So that's one thing.
Love that.
The second thing is I wait at least an hour before drinking any caffeine.
Yeah.
And I've also switched from coffee to matcha, and I just feel like the caffeine impact causes you're less jittery, you're less uppity. If I do have caffeine, it'll be in the form of coffee. I'll have espresso, and I'll have a very small amount, and then I'll spread that out over a couple of hours as opposed to drinking like 12 ounces at once. I'd rather do 4 ounces and then another hour and a half later do another 4 ounces, and then another hour later do another 4 ounces because it minimizes the impact of the caffeine, and it also in terms of side effects, so you're less jittery, you're less anxious, and it also improves allows for like a steady state of caffeine in your
Mhm.
bloodstream, so it actually makes the caffeine more potent and more effective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so those two things have been really helpful for me. I also get up very early and I try to watch the sunrise in the morning. And I find that really like beautiful and very peaceful.
Mm.
So it's very quiet. I have no phone. I kind of check in with myself and my body. I wait to have my any caffeine in for at least an hour. And this is sort of like my time before anybody else is awake. And I found that that allows for a really nice start to the day. And it is my most creative time of the day.
Yeah. Love
And then
that.
I have a little bit of an evening
Yeah.
routine
Let,
too.
let me hear the let me hear the evening routine. Yeah.
I shower at night, never skip a nighttime shower. And that's because, like, think about all the stuff you're doing throughout the day and then all the germs you're collecting. I'm not a germaphobe in real life, even though my Instagram makes people think I am. I'm super
I
relaxed.
will say the one thing I do like to shower every day and I like to go to bed clean, but it's so dry sometimes in Chicago in the winter. I like try to have a day where I don't shower, because showering can dry you out a little bit. So from time to time I will skip a shower, but I do like that. No. Yeah.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, skipping a shower is fine. It's interesting. Allergists and dermatologists have a bit of a different take on like showers drying you out. Allergists actually say, unless you're using scorching hot water and then like really scrubbing yourself dry, like you're not going to dry yourself out. You're actually like capturing all the moisture. And then if you use an occlusive like Vaseline, or if you don't like Vaseline, you could do like a cocoa butter or shea butter. It actually locks the moisture in.
Mm.
So like I actually am a fan of take a 20-minute like warm bath soak every day when you're feeling like it's really dry and your skin is feeling dried out. But then when you come out, apply Vaseline to your skin while it is still wet, and that like acts like saran wrap. It actually locks the moisture in. If you apply those types of emollients after you've dried yourself off, you're right. You're just going to continue to just be dehydrated. But if you soak, absorb all that water, and then apply the like a shea butter, beeswax based formula, or
Maybe like
totally,
a
it'll
towel.
lock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll lock the moisture in. And because what happens when you have dry skin is you have a breakdown of your skin barrier. So you basically recreate the skin barrier with these occlusives.
Okay, so evening routine. Like, I always think it's important to set yourself up for like quality sleep. Like, what type of things do you do for that?
So I like to eat dinner early, like
Yeah,
by like
me too.
5:30 or
Yeah.
6. I know I sound like kind of lean, but I don't like eating dinner out because I feel like I blow up and I'm full of sodium and I feel
Yeah.
disgusting and I have a stomach ache. And, so I try to eat like a clean meal, mostly plants. I do eat red meat sometimes, but like be done eating by like 6:30 or 7.
I'm right with you
Um,
on that. Yeah.
I do not have a TV in my bedroom. I really don't watch too much television. I actually have started to take up knitting, believe it or not. So I'm like doing something with my hands
Yeah.
and then shower, dry my hair because you don't want to go to bed with wet hair. Otherwise, you get dandruff and all kinds of yucky stuff in your hair and it leads to more breakage. And then I'll read at night with a Kindle. And I find the Kindle to be helpful because it's not like that harsh blue light. And then I read till I fall asleep. And my room is pitch black. I've got blackout curtains and I have an eye mask. And we know that sleeping in pitch black can boost your own melatonin production. Sometimes I'll actually enjoy making myself a sleep mocktail. So I'm like, I can't drink alcohol anymore. I think like after turning 40, we know our body has like a few shifts in our metabolism and they're pretty drastic. Like I can't break it down anymore. It affects my sleep, but it's really nice to like relax and feel like you're having a drink. So I'll do like some kava and tart cherry juice, maybe like a little lavender syrup, and I'll have that as a sleep mocktail. There are also a couple of companies that make like a mixture that's got magnesium and stuff in it, ashwagandha, that also helps. But it's like enjoyable. I put it in a wine glass and I like sit and sip my sleep mocktail while I'm knitting,
Right, right.
and that's my routine.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, I all growing up, I never had a TV in my room. Now I do, but like I don't even turn it on. We don't turn it on. I don't watch TV in the room. I don't even like to watch TV in general. But yeah, big fan of eating early. I always talk about that, like especially with clients. Like I don't like to be done 6:30, 7 at the latest. I would say like give yourself like 3 hours before you go to bed. I think is a good place to start. What
Yeah,
about
and I'll
yeah,
sometimes, I'll say like, hey, if you really want to have a snack, like grab like a handful of nuts, like walnuts and pistachios are high in melatonin, natural melatonin, and like avoid dark chocolate. I say because it also contains a little bit of caffeine,
mm,
and I don't think people realize that. But it's just like, and smaller meals in the evening. Like I'm very much of like the European approach, which is like have a bigger meal in the middle of the day, and don't like gorge yourself in the evening time
right.
because you're just going to end up with indigestion, acid reflux, and stomach
Yeah.
issues, and then it's going to impact your sleep.
A big thing now it's our winter's going on. It's getting a little nicer, but like walking after I eat, I think it's a
Yes.
big one. I don't know. Do you, I have dogs. I have two of them, so we go on like three a day. So I'm a big fan. I always try to strategically put our walks after meals.
Yes. I have a dog too, and that's huge to
Yeah.
just get like moving. 100% agree.
And workouts. I know you work out. I think I saw you posted. Is it 3 times a week you try to average for
Yeah.
resistance training?
Yeah,
Yeah.
strength training. I mean, I played soccer in college. I used to think like I needed to go running every day and I hate running. And then I'm like, oh, I have to have cardio every day. I think like doing your walks, or I actually like to dance, so like taking a dance class, like getting the steps in and stuff is important. But
Right.
as it relates to like feeling good physically and burning calories, I think like strength training is where it's at. And I just want to like emphasize that in women more and more, especially as we're going through perimenopause and menopause. I see a lot of my friends and I'm like, you're going to have osteoporosis. Like I see the muscle wasting occurring. I
Yeah.
see how thin they are. And it's like, you're going to break your bones. Yes, because you have decreased bone density, but also because you don't have the muscle mass to support it.
Right.
So like you got to do strength training. That doesn't mean you're a bodybuilder. It does. And also I think women feel like, oh, if I do, I'm going to be like too muscular for my clothes. I'm going to be too manly. And
Right.
like, no, that's not true. Your posture is going to improve. You're going to have a reduction in fracture risk. You're going to like physically feel better. Like you're not going to be like slumped over. You're not going to have the back pain. You're not going to have the neck pain. I notice that when I don't work out and I'm in like a little bit of a slump now, my back and neck are killing me all day and I feel like an old lady. And
Yeah.
then I start working out and getting on my routine and I can like take over the world. I have more energy. Like my body looks better, but like I don't look like a muscle man bodybuilder,
No.
That's like, so I think we have to like reframe this for people and like kind of replace it with like how we previously perceived like going for a jog and running, how
Yeah.
like we thought that was so integral and important. No, it's actually the strength training and you don't have to go crazy. You can have like 10-pound weights, like, or
Right.
even just do it to your own body's resistance or use resistance bands.
Totally agree. When I first met my wife, she was just a runner. Now I got her into lifting, and personally, I think she looks better and like just more muscle mass. We get DEXA scans from time to time. Her bone mass has gone up. Bone density. Talk about that as we age. So yeah, that's always like top priority. I think man or woman.
100%. And it's like, we talk about bone density because like that's the test that we have. And we don't have like a test for sarcopenia, which is like a loss of muscle mass.
Right.
And I think that that's something that if we did have some sort of diagnostic test for, we'd be like, oh my gosh, this is really significant. Let's make sure we are getting enough protein in our diet and strengthening our muscles. And again, it could be really simple things. Like I even say to like moms who have like, recently have kids, like literally take your kid and do some squats with your kid,
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
whatever it is, whatever it takes. I don't care if you have to like hold a stack of books or something. Like I said, you don't have to like, people have this idea that they need to be like bodybuilders with dumbbells at the gym. Like it doesn't need to be like that.
Yeah. This is a question I like to ask. What's like one thing you've changed your mind on in your health journey and over the last, let's say, 10, 15 years?
Oh, really interesting. Well, I do think this whole like strength training piece is
Hmm.
something top of mind. Also, honestly, just because I was literally just reading an article about it, like the use of psychedelics for mental health care.
Mm.
Like I can't ignore, I read the book How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. It was really powerful. And then the literature that's coming out, especially as it relates to like drug resistant depression, I have my eye on it. I think the medicines really need to, there's ketamine, there's psilocybin, need to be utilized responsibly. But I think like the data is undeniable around that. And I was always someone that's like, oh my gosh, this is, I grew up in the this is your brain on drugs era, right? And it's like, stay away from that. But I actually think it's a misnomer to classify these medicines as
Right.
like drugs, like hard drugs. Like I do think used responsibly, there's significant potential for PTSD, for use in veterans, for treatment-resistant depression. Like the literature seems to be pretty compelling. So that's something that I'm sort of keeping an eye on.
Yeah, well, I'll recommend. I actually just interviewed this gentleman, Austin Mao, a few weeks ago, and he started something called Ceremonia, and that's in Colorado. And they do it's plant medicine, and they do ceremonies, and they have like 3 day and then 6 day. I've actually been looking into it for myself, I've been wanting to just see what it's like, and I was pretty intrigued when I interviewed him, and he started Ceremonia back in like 2020, I believe. It's only you can only do it in like Colorado and California, I believe, unless you go like South. I had a buddy who just actually went to South America and did it. But yeah, so it's changing people's lives. I know Aaron Rodgers on Netflix. I don't know if you watch that. If you're a football fan, it's actually an interesting one. But he's gotten really into plant medicines and ayahuasca and doing those ceremonies and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's really, really, really an interesting space.
Yeah.
So Ceremonia, okay, I'll check
Yeah,
it out.
certainly. Yeah, check it. Austin Mao. It was like a few weeks ago. I think I published it, but it was an interesting interview, and I'm looking into that. So, what about? Let's see your ebook. Let's talk about your ebook.
Yeah, I'm excited because this is like the first thing that I've sort of put together that is like goes a little bit deeper on a specific topic as it relates to like keeping your home healthy. Um, so it really focuses like I hate to use the word non-toxic living because like what does that even mean? What's non-toxic? Like if you take a cleaning supply and even though it says non-toxic and you eat it, it's toxic, right? So like
Sure,
what does that
sure.
term mean? I think we're overusing it. But it's like making thoughtful, conscious decisions about the things that you put in your home. So we go room by room. And it also is like part like design, because as you know, like my posts on social media are very aesthetic. I film a lot of content like in my home, so you can sort of see I have like a lot of like natural wood and plants and things. I have this moss wall that I actually made.
Oh,
So it goes room by room, and it's like, okay, your entryway. How do you make that like a beautiful, aesthetic, but healthy living space? So I talk about like, okay, you don't wear shoes in the house, but like, how do you implement that in a classy way? Well, have a little slipper basket for your guests. And then I have like links to products and stuff. None of the products or any of that are paid. But it's just like things that I personally would use and I like. And like, here's your entry bench so your guests can sit and take off their shoes comfortably. And then like have a long shoehorn which shoehorns, honestly, that is another thing that has changed my life, that I've changed my view on. Having a shoehorn
Really?
to put your
Okay.
shoes on, and it reduces back strain. You know, when you're like trying to get shoes on and it's like so uncomfortable, and then you like use a shoehorn and you step into it and you're like, this is life
Yeah.
changing. So like little hacks like that. And I go room by room. We talk about things in the kitchen. We talk about like, okay, what about all the materials in the kitchen? What about ceramic? What about stainless steel? What about cast iron? Like, what about silicone? What should I use? Wood utensils? Which ones are safe? Right. So I kind of just like, and I give the science with links to clinical studies, because that's my thing, right? I give links to products, and then it also embeds a lot of my videos that explain more. So it's like
Sure.
all in one very aesthetic place. For the bedroom, we talk about stuff like how do you optimize for sleep. So it's not just necessarily like making things like look pretty and aesthetic, but like what are some clinically proven practices for optimizing your sleep?
I'm curious, like, are you one that like tries to avoid like metal bed frames and like, you've seen this, like even like the grounding sheets, and what are your thoughts around that? Is that something that you've even tried?
I haven't tried them.
Okay.
It's like, when does it stop? And like, I've already gotten criticized for like, you must never be able to relax. Do you like, what do you just like sleep on a wooden like bed frame or something because like you can't have anything touch your body because it's so toxic or whatever? So like, I haven't looked into the grounding sheets. I could absolutely. I probably will. But like, I try for things like 100% like organic cotton. I
Sure.
try to minimize like anything with polyurethane foam, like the big things that we know are like toxic, like anything that's treated with a flame retardant. You're like, okay, maybe that's suboptimal for my health.
Yeah.
Anything that releases significant volatile organic compounds. So like I opt for like solid wood as opposed to composite wood.
Mhm.
If I do have a little piece that's composite, I like put it in the garage and air it out for days before I bring it into my house, like little things like that. I think when people should start to like go deeper and deeper and deeper in terms of grounding sheets and all that is if they're symptomatic.
Sure.
So I did go down a little bit of a rabbit hole when I was having recurrent headaches.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, there's a trigger in my house. I know there's a trigger in my house. Like, what is it? It turned out to be very expensive candles. I'm talking about like an $800 candle that I had in my house, which really pissed me off because I had to get rid of it. That had synthetic fragrance, but it was like so buried in the fine print, I didn't realize.
Mm.
And it was cleaning products that were being used that I didn't realize. Like people were bringing in these cleaning products that weren't opening up the windows, and they had all kinds of synthetic fragrances and stuff in them. So I think like when you start to have congestion every morning or headaches, or you just have like unexplained, your body doesn't feel right, fatigue and everything, and you're like going to multiple doctors, things aren't working, that's when you need to like go deeper and deeper and deeper until you're like, okay, I've literally removed and cleansed all of the potential toxins in my home.
Right.
Now, am I still having issues or not?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to like EMFs, like some people are definitely more sensitive than others. Some
Yeah.
people have to really look out. And I actually bought like, not, my wife thought I was crazy when I got this, but it's like a trimeter where you can measure the
Yeah.
EMFs that are being like, I don't know, that the frequency that throughout the house. And I was just curious, and it is sort of a learning experience. We have a lot of like Wi-Fi and like a whole like, I don't know, connection field downstairs, and it was pretty significant down there. So I actually put some like sheets over that area just to sort of keep it contained. But yeah, I think that's the whole idea with the metal belt bed frames is, just the attracting the EMFs and things like that.
But here's the other thing. It's like we have such a lack of awareness of the health of our home. And like people need to understand, they understand about their gut microbiome, right? We have an
Sure.
indoor microbiome. It is in our home, and all the air and everything that's like in our surroundings. And there's noise pollution, and there's air pollution, and there's, light pollution. But we don't think about that. We think, I have a headache. Let me have some more caffeine. I have a headache. Let me take Tylenol. My stomach's upset. Let me take this. Let me take
Right.
that. And nobody's actually saying, could there be a trigger that I'm being exposed to in my home? It's just like not how our mind works. So we need to rethink that. Not to say we have to be paranoid about everything, but once you tune in with the EMF and stuff specifically, and then you address it, you're like, oh shit, excuse
Mhm.
my language, I feel better. Oh,
Mm.
wow. I stopped, with the scented candles and synthetic fragrances in my house and scented wax candles or scented wax melts, right? That seem innocuous because they don't really smoke. And all of a sudden I feel better. Oh, right. So it's a little bit of a trial and error, but it can make a significant difference. And I think it's our job, mine and yours, Brian, to just be like, these things could be an issue. Look into it, see if you feel better, as opposed to just assuming
Right.
that your headaches or your issues are just because I don't feel well today or I didn't get enough sleep or whatever, and then popping a pill for it or drinking another cup of coffee, right?
No doubt. I mean, I think environmental factors are a big piece of the puzzle, and people are overlooked a lot of times, or like you said, and that's why I bring up almost like for me, we do have like a metal bed frame, and I'm thinking about switching things out only just because if you think about where you're at for most of the day, like you're on your bed for 8 hours at a time, so like
Yeah,
if you're going to spend some money, like why not spend it on something like that? I'm not saying everyone has to replace their bed frames, but it's just something I think that people should be conscious of.
100%.
Yeah.
100. I completely agree.
Yeah. Was there one thing going making this ebook that like stood out? Like you're like, oh, this is something that like people are just like need to swap out. Like,
I think the black plastic kitchen utensils
okay.
are the biggest one. I mean, I did a post on that. It ended up going viral. I was shocked because a lot of times people buy that because it looks a little bit nicer in their kitchen. It seems more aesthetic. Then I also realized, like, what about the black plastic, like forks and spoons and knives that you get from takeout? And what about the black plastic takeout containers, like with Chinese food in it? That's so hot when you get it,
I
right?
mean, how about
And
a
you're like,
coffee? How about a Starbucks coffee with the
right,
plastic covering on it? Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy crap, like this is not good. These are not meant to withstand these high temperatures, right?
Yeah.
And you're cooking with these things. So you're like, oh my gosh, let me get rid of it. So I think that was one, the study came out recently, and I think it actually overstated the amount of, chemical flame retardants or what have you that were in the original study, and it was revised. It doesn't matter. There's still enough in there to be toxic to us. I mean, literally, you're using recycled electronics from televisions and computers that are treated with flame retardants. And it's not anybody's fault. It's just that you can't recycle these things properly so
Hmm.
that anything that's black plastic ends up just getting put together in one bin and then reused and repurposed. And here we are thinking, oh, it's 100% recycled. I should use it. This is good for the environment. And it's terrible. And then we wonder why, like, GI cancers have risen exponentially. And we've got all these fertility issues. Like, it's not a coincidence, you
Mm.
know?
Mm. So that
So
was the biggest thing that stood out. Yeah. Yeah,
I would say,
that
yeah, I
makes
would
sense.
say, yeah,
Yeah.
it like kind of prompted the development of the book, and then just like doubling down on everything else in your kitchen that isn't good for you, because then that ties into like the clean eating, and you could
Right.
be eating as clean as possible, but then if the things that you're using aren't clean, like, right, like and you're now leaching and putting chemicals back into the food when you've been so conscious about buying organic and sustainable sources, it like defeats the purpose.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, also
Mhm.
what we're cooking into, right? That's a big one. You're better off cooking these saturated fats as opposed to all of the vegetable oils that are out there. But that's a whole nother discussion. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I like to ask this question towards the end of the interview is what's one tip you'd give someone, let's say they're trying to get their body back to what it once was 10 years ago, and they just don't know where to start. What's one tip you'd give to them?
I would say to get baseline blood work.
Hmm.
And there's lots of options out there, right? There's like the Function Health of the world if you want to spend $1 million and get a gazillion tests. If you go on Quest Diagnostics online, you can literally click and order your own, like you can order like a comprehensive metabolic panel, a B12 level, a folate level thyroid function test, iron studies, and ferritin. I think those are the key ones to have checked. Or you can go to your doctor, but you want to have like a baseline blood work, because a lot of times we're like, oh, it must just be hormones. Oh, I'm getting older. So this is why I'm not feeling this way, or I'm not exercising or whatever. You can do all the exercise you want in the world. If you have low iron stores, like you're not going to get better. So don't just like assume, oh, it's perimenopause, or, oh, it must be my testosterone. Oh, it must be I'm not getting enough sleep. Like, let's baseline you and rule out a deficiency. Like, B12 is incredibly common. We know vitamin D is common. Thyroid issues are very common. I always make sure my patients have a ferritin level checked, which is a marker of your iron stores. So even if you're not anemic, if that level is low, it means that you're probably not delivering enough oxygen via iron to your body. So like that, those need to be addressed, and they're easy fixes. So that's like the most important thing, is to like, let's figure out what I'm dealing with before we just like jump to supplements or jump to a workout routine that's not going to work, because you're not going to have the energy levels because there's some sort of imbalance. So I'd say that starting that's a really good starting point.
Yeah. Yeah. And testing is, like you said, it's become easier and easier. Like there's a lot of companies now that you can get, like they have bundles, or you can sort of come up with your own little package as far as, what to order. What was the one you mentioned? You said Quest. Is it right? Quest Diagnostics.
Yeah, which is like,
Yeah.
everyone goes to like LabCorp has it too. You can like go
Yeah.
on their website and be like, order my own test. There's also one called like Ulta Labs, I think, that is like pretty inexpensive. And
Yeah.
like, again, you order the test. On the back end, there's a doctor that reviews and approves it. And then you just go to your local lab, Quest, LabCorp, have the blood work done, and then you get a report with your results. The downside to it is you still need an interpretation.
Sure.
Like even if you get a fancy like Function Health or whatever, or the Quest, like sometimes things say normal range, and I say like F normal, because like what does normal range mean compared to what? So for example, testosterone normal range is an entire standard deviation lower
Yeah.
than it used to be 20 years ago. So
Right.
like, it's not necessarily normal. So it's important to have a doctor interpret the results and be like, normal, but not for like a 40-year-old healthy guy,
Mhm.
right? Like, even though it doesn't come off as like, in the red, like your number's 0, if your number's 300, you might benefit from supplementation. So I think that that's important, is the interpretation. So if you have a doctor, go through your doctor. Otherwise, if you get the blood test, you're not sure of the results, make sure that you then see a doctor to help understand and interpret them.
Yeah. Totally agree. I mean, there's the range, and then there's optimal. And it's like
Exactly. And like, the range is like, I'd say anything that's like below that median line, even if it doesn't say out of range, requires a discussion with a doctor.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, this is great, Tanya. Where's the best place for people to find you?
You can follow me on social media, Dr. Tania Elliott. I'm launching Substack soon too, which will like allow us to get a little bit deeper into topics. So I suggest like DM me with ideas and topics. Like, what do you want to like go down a rabbit hole for? Like, what should we be doing research on? And then we can continue the conversation on Substack too.
Well, love that. Yeah, Dr. Tania
my book.
Elliott. What's that?
Get my ebook.
Yeah, and that's your website, which I'll put links in the show notes, TaniaElliottMD.com. So
You got it.
I appreciate you coming on the podcast, Tanya.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. I understand there are millions of other podcasts out there, and you've chosen to listen to mine, and I appreciate that. Check out the show notes at briangryn.com for everything that was mentioned in this episode. Feel free to subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend or family member that's looking to get their body back to what it once was. Thanks again, and have a great day.